Let's quickly set the current board so we know exactly where all the pieces are standing before the chaos truly begins. Dante and Lulu finally track down Britt and Rocco in their Tortola hideout. But instead of a tearful, relieved family reunion, the situation instantly devolves into a toxic, screaming confrontation. Dante and Lulu, completely blinded by their parental panic and righteous anger, accuse Britt of kidnapping their son. They refuse to listen to a single word Rocco says. Rocco explicitly defends Britt, explaining that he wanted to go with her, that she never forced him, and that she actually saved his life from Ross Cullum. But his parents shut him down, treating him like a naive child who doesn't understand his own trauma. Frustrated and feeling entirely unheard, Rocco vanishes without a trace. Naturally, Dante, Lulu, and Britt assume the absolute worst, that Ross Cullum tracked them down and snatched the boy for revenge. They put aside their bitter feud to hunt the WSB double agent. But here is the massive twist that changes the entire game. Rocco wasn't kidnapped. Fed up with his parents' deafening ignorance, he ran away, stumbled upon a massive clue regarding Jason Morgan's secret WSB black site prison, and decided to take matters into his own hands. While his parents were chasing ghosts, Rocco orchestrated a daring solo rescue mission, successfully breaking Jason out of captivity. The board completely flips when Jason and Rocco walk back into Port Charles together, leaving Dante and Lulu utterly stunned, drowning in guilt, and realizing they falsely accused Britt while completely underestimating their own son. Now, let's explore the first future that could stem from this unbelievable turning point. Who benefits from this massive revelation? Rocco's independence and his standing in the world. Who is in danger? The foundational bond of the Falconeri family. Dante is a seasoned, highly trained detective, and Lulu has that fierce, undeniable Spencer intuition, yet they both failed spectacularly to read the room in Tortola. They let their raw emotions completely override their logic. If you look closely at Rocco's actions, this could lead to a permanent emotional severing between him and his parents. He just proved he has the tactical mind of a seasoned operative. He broke into a WSB holding facility and extracted Jason Morgan, a feat that highly trained mercenaries would struggle to pull off. The story could be heading toward Rocco completely rejecting Dante and Lulu's authority. Why should he listen to them when they treated him like a foolish child, ignored his desperate pleas, and falsely accused the one person, Britt, who actually protected him? Dante and Lulu are going to try to overcompensate. They will want to smother him with protection, therapy, and strict rules, terrified by what he is truly capable of. But the harder they grip, the more Rocco will slip through their fingers. We might see Rocco emancipate himself emotionally, if not legally. He has tasted the pure adrenaline of taking control of his own destiny. The bigger consequence may be that Rocco starts viewing Dante's police badge and Lulu's maternal instincts not as protective shields, but as suffocating chains. He will look at them and only see the people who didn't believe him when it mattered most. Let's pivot to a second future, a completely different trajectory that brings intense federal heat down on Port Charles. What happens next may be a massive, unstoppable retaliation from the WSB. We cannot simply gloss over the fact that a teenager just infiltrated a secure intelligence location and freed a high-value federal prisoner. The WSB is not going to just shrug this off and let Jason and Rocco walk around town like nothing happened. There is a chance that Ross Cullum, who is still out there licking his wounds and plotting his next move, uses this exact scenario to his immense advantage. Cullum is a master manipulator who thrives on chaos. What if he spins the narrative to make Rocco look like a dangerous domestic terrorist who violently assaulted federal agents to free a known mob enforcer? This would put Dante in an impossible, soul-crushing position. As a sworn police officer, Dante is bound by the law to uphold justice. But as a father, he will have to cross every single ethical and legal line to protect his son from a federal indictment. If that happens, we are looking at Dante Falconeri going entirely rogue, potentially teaming up with Sonny Corinthos and Jason to wage a brutal shadow war against the WSB. Jason, of course, will feel an immense, unbreakable debt to Rocco. Jason is not a man who forgets a life-saving favor, especially from a kid. He might offer to take the fall entirely, confessing to a violent solo breakout to shield Rocco from the devastating consequences. But will Rocco allow Jason to sacrifice himself again? This path transforms a family drama into a high-stakes espionage thriller where the entire Corinthos and Falconeri syndicate has to mobilize to protect a teenager from the wrath of a global intelligence agency. Now, let's look at the third future, the ultimate wildcard scenario that few people are talking about but has the potential to be the most fascinating dynamic shift on the entire canvas. Let's talk about Britt Westbourne. She was verbally abused, threatened with severe kidnapping charges, and treated like an absolute monster by Dante and Lulu. Yet, she swallowed her pride, pushed down her anger, and helped them hunt for Cullum because she genuinely loves Rocco. Now that the truth is out, Britt holds the absolute moral high ground. She has been entirely, undeniably vindicated. The story could be heading toward Britt using this immense leverage to completely humiliate Dante and Lulu, but I think the reality will be much more subtle and dangerous. What if Britt forms an unbreakable, almost impenetrable bond with Rocco and Jason? Rocco already trusts Britt far more than his own parents. Jason now owes his freedom to Rocco, and he knows Britt was the one protecting the kid when no one else could. We could see the formation of a brand new, highly unconventional power trio in Port Charles, Jason, Britt, and Rocco. If you think about it, Britt and Jason share a long, painful history of being outcasts, of being misunderstood, judged, and falsely accused by the self-righteous citizens of this town. They know exactly how Rocco feels right now. Britt could become the fierce mentor and confidant that Rocco desperately needs, a figure who actually listens to him without the suffocating judgment of Dante and Lulu. This could lead to Britt wielding immense silent power over the Falconeri family. Dante and Lulu will be forced to watch from the sidelines in sheer agony as their son seeks guidance from the Britch and the mob enforcer, entirely alienated from his own bloodline. If you ask me, the path that feels most likely is a devastating, heartbreaking combination of the emotional fracture and the formation of these new, dangerous alliances. I keep coming back to the idea that Port Charles is fundamentally about legacy and the sins of the father passing down to the son. Rocco is carrying the blood of Sonny Corinthos, Luke Spencer, and Dante Falconeri in his veins. That is a highly volatile, explosive cocktail of mob enforcement, reckless adventure, and strict law enforcement. Right now, the law enforcement side, represented by Dante, has completely and utterly failed him. The path that makes the most sense is Rocco leaning heavily into his Spencer and Corinthos roots. He is going to naturally gravitate toward Jason Morgan. Jason represents action, undeniable truth, and fierce loyalty. Everything Rocco felt his parents lacked in that stifling hotel room in Tortola. I see Jason taking Rocco under his wing, not necessarily to turn him into a hardened criminal, but to teach him how to survive in a treacherous world where the adults are constantly making catastrophic mistakes. Dante and Lulu will have to face the agonizing, soul-crushing reality that their brave son trusts a notorious hitman more than he trusts them. It is a brilliant, emotionally complex evolution of character that pays off years of deep family history and sets the stage for a generational passing of the torch. But let's not stop there, because the story never truly ends in Port Charles. If that scenario plays out, what happens after? What is the next massive shockwave to hit the canvas once the dust settles? Looking ahead, if Rocco is trained by Jason and mentored by Britt, we are watching the real-time origin story of Port Charles's next great anti-hero. The bigger consequence may be that Rocco decides that traditional rules simply don't apply to him anymore. He has seen the WSB's deep-rooted corruption firsthand. He has seen the police fail to protect the innocent. If he starts taking justice into his own hands, operating in the dangerous, murky, gray areas that Jason has mastered for decades, Dante will eventually have to investigate his own son. Imagine the sheer Shakespearean tragedy of Detective Falconeri building a criminal case against Rocco, realizing far too late that his own failure to listen in Tortola was the exact catalyst that pushed his son into the darkness. Or, perhaps, Rocco catches the eye of a reformed WSB faction, seeing his raw talent for infiltration and extraction, and recruits him as their youngest operative ever. The future is wide open, guys, and it is darker, more complex, and infinitely more thrilling than a simple rescue mission. The board has been completely reset, the old rules have been thrown out the window, and the real game is only just beginning. Keep your eyes peeled, because Port Charles will never be the same again.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.